Beneath the shifting sands of time lies an empire of secrets, where whispers of lost treasures and vanished armies still echo through crumbling ruins. The Persian Empire, a realm of unimaginable power and splendor, holds mysteries that have baffled historians for centuries. What happened to the 50,000 soldiers of King Cambyses II, swallowed whole by the Egyptian desert? Where is the legendary gold hoard of the Elamites, stolen and scattered across the ages? Why did Alexander the Great burn the majestic city of Persepolis? Was it rage, accident, or something more sinister? Today, we unveil 25 of history's most tantalizing enigmas, secrets buried so deep that even modern archaeology struggles to unearth them. From cursed tombs to sunken cities, from vanished libraries to coded royal messages, each mystery rewrites what we thought we knew about this ancient superpower. By the end of this journey, you'll question everything history books have told you. So steel your nerves, because we're plunging into the shadows of Persia's past, where truth is stranger than legend. But before we unravel the fate of those 50,000 vanished soldiers, let's journey even further back, to the very cornerstone of Persia's glory, and a mystery that has haunted archaeologists for centuries. The resting place of Cyrus the Great, the visionary ruler who forged the Persian Empire, has vanished without a trace. Imagine this, a tomb so magnificent, ancient historians like Strabo and Arrian described it as a towering monument of white stone, surrounded by lush gardens and guarded by Persian priests. Yet today, not a single slab of that sacred structure remains in its original place. The ancient city of Pasargadae, where Cyrus was laid to rest, still holds fragments of his legacy. But his tomb gone, some scholars believe it was dismantled, not by invaders, but by later Persian kings who sought to erase his memory during dynastic conflicts. Others whisper of a deliberate concealment, a last act of reverence to protect the founder's remains from desecration. And then there's the chilling local legend that disturbing Cyrus's grave unleashes a curse so potent, even Alexander the Great, who openly admired him, refused to touch it after conquering Persia. Modern technology hasn't cracked this enigma either. Satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar have scanned every inch of Pasargadae, yet no hidden chambers or relocated ruins have surfaced. Could the tomb have been moved to the remote mountains of modern-day Iran, as some cryptic Zoroastrian texts suggest? Or was it swallowed by the earth itself, a victim of forgotten earthquakes or floods? The truth is, Cyrus's disappearance is more than a missing monument, it's the vanishing of a symbol. A king who championed human rights and multicultural tolerance, whose absence seems to mirror the fragility of history itself. And here's what chills historians most. If we can't find the grave of Persia's most celebrated ruler, what else might we be wrong about? The answers could rewrite everything we know about the empire's golden age. But for now, the sands keep their secret, and Cyrus the Great remains just out of reach. Now, speaking of vanishings, let's turn to an even more unsettling mystery, one that involves not just a tomb, but an entire army swallowed by the desert. Now, let's step into the shadowy realm of legend, where history blurs with myth, and where Cyrus the Great's tomb isn't just lost, but guarded by something far more sinister. Across centuries, whispers of a curse have clung to his resting place like desert sand to stone. Even Alexander the Great, the conqueror who toppled Persia, reportedly halted his men from disturbing the tomb, fearing divine retribution. But was this reverence or something darker? Local lore tells of archaeologists and treasure hunters who dared to search for Cyrus's grave, only to meet bizarre, untimely ends. In the 1920s, a British expedition vanished without a trace in the mountains near Pasargadae, their equipment found scattered as if dropped in panic. Decades later, an Iranian team claimed to hear ghostly chanting near the site, followed by a sudden sandstorm that buried their tools overnight. Coincidence? Perhaps, but when these stories pile up, even skeptics pause. Then there's the chilling account from the 1970s when a Soviet historian ignored warnings and pried open a sealed chamber near Pasargadae. Within weeks, his entire research team fell ill with identical, undiagnosed fevers. The historian himself allegedly went mad, scribbling about the king's wrath in his final notes. Modern scholars dismiss these tales as superstitious fodder, yet the pattern is unsettling. So, where does truth end and legend begin? Historians point out that curses were a common psychological weapon in ancient Persia, used to deter grave robbers and political rivals. Inscriptions threatening divine punishment adorned royal tombs, and Cyrus, a ruler deeply tied to Zoroastrianism, would have understood the power of such dread. But could a curse physically harm people centuries later? Science says no, yet the human mind is its own kind of battlefield. Fear, after all, can manifest in ways that defy logic. What's most compelling isn't whether the curse is real, but why the story endures. Cyrus's tomb symbolizes more than a missing relic. It's a testament to how empires guard their myths. Whether through whispers or warnings, the past has a way of resisting those who dig too greedily. And so the curse lives on, not in sand or stone, but in the stories we can't stop retelling. Now, as we leave the spectral behind, let's turn to a mystery grounded in sheer scale. The chilling disappearance of 50,000 soldiers under Cambyses II, swallowed whole by the desert's hunger. Shifting from spectral curses to a very tangible disappearance, let's delve into one of history's most baffling military mysteries: the vanishing of Cambyses II's 50,000 soldiers. Imagine an entire army, enough to populate a small city, marching into the vast Egyptian desert around 525 BC, only to disappear without a single trace. No bones, no weapons, not even a scrap of fabric, just silence. Ancient Greek historian Herodotus first recorded this chilling tale, claiming Cambyses sent his troops to attack the oracle of Ammon at Siwa Oasis, but they were swallowed by a monstrous sandstorm mid-journey. Was it nature's fury or something more human? Theories abound. Some scholars argue Herodotus exaggerated or even invented the story to smear Cambyses, who was often painted as a tyrant. Others point to archaeological clues. In the 1980s, a team scouring the western desert found remnants of ancient metal and pottery near a dried-up riverbed, sparking whispers of the lost army's fate. But nothing conclusive emerged. Then, in 2009, two Italian archaeologists claimed to have discovered weathered bones and arrowheads near Siwa, suggesting a massacre. Yet without mass graves or definitive Persian artifacts, the mystery deepened. Rebellion offers another angle. Cambyses' rule was unstable. His army included resentful conscripts and mercenaries. Could they have mutinied, dispersing into the desert or defecting to local tribes? Persian records hint at unrest during this period, but they're frustratingly vague. Meanwhile, geologists propose a cataclysmic Khamsin, a windstorm so violent it can bury entire caravans in hours. Modern satellite imagery reveals shifting dunes capable of hiding even an army's worth of debris. What makes this enigma endure isn't just the scale of the loss, but what it reveals about history's fragility. Empires rise and fall, but sometimes their most dramatic moments vanish like footprints in the sand. Whether by storm, revolt, or some undiscovered catastrophe, Cambyses' army remains a haunting reminder of how little we truly know. Now, as we sift through these ancient whispers, let's turn to the cutting-edge tools keeping the search alive, because today's technology might finally crack a 2,500-year-old cold case. Turning from ancient texts to modern technology, the hunt for Cambyses' lost army has entered a thrilling new chapter. Archaeologists are no longer relying solely on cracked pottery or fading inscriptions today. They're armed with tools that would seem like magic to Herodotus. Satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and even drones are scouring the Egyptian desert, peeling back layers of sand and time. One of the most promising breakthroughs came in 2014, when a team using satellite photos spotted unusual rock formations near the oasis of Bahariya. These patterns, invisible from the ground, hinted at man-made structures buried beneath the dunes. Expeditions followed, equipped with magnetometers to detect metal remnants, spearheads, armor, anything that could confirm an army's presence. While no definitive proof emerged, the sheer scale of these surveys has narrowed the search area dramatically. Ground-penetrating radar has added another layer to the puzzle. In 2019, researchers mapped subterranean anomalies near sea or pockets of disturbed earth that could be mass graves or collapsed supply wagons. But the desert guards its secrets fiercely. Heat, shifting sands, and the sheer vastness of the terrain make excavation a painstaking gamble. As one archaeologist put it, it's like searching for a needle in a haystack if the haystack were the size of a country and constantly moving. What keeps researchers obsessed isn't just the potential for a headline-making discovery. This isn't merely about finding bones or weapons. It's about solving a riddle that challenges our understanding of ancient logistics and survival. How did 50,000 trained soldiers vanish without leaving a trail? The answer could rewrite what we know about Persian military campaigns, desert warfare, and even climate shifts in the region. The human element also looms large. Imagine the final moments of those soldiers caught in a storm, betrayed by their comrades or succumbing to thirst. This mystery tugs at our universal fear of being erased by time. Every rusted dagger or shattered helmet pulled from the sand isn't just an artifact. It's a voice from the void, whispering fragments of a story we're desperate to hear in full. As we edge closer to answers, one thing is certain: the desert hasn't given up its ghosts yet. But with each technological leap, the shadows hiding Cambyses' army grow thinner. And who knows, the next scan, the next dig, might finally end the world's oldest missing persons case. Now, let's pivot from sand-covered battlefields to a different kind of Persian enigma, one etched in stone and shrouded in possible codes. Because up next, we're decoding the Behistun inscription's hidden messages. Shifting from the sands of Egypt to the windswept plains of Iran, we arrive at the ancient ruins of Pasargadae, a site that defies easy explanation. Built by Cyrus the Great in the 6th century BC, this sprawling complex has puzzled historians for centuries. Were these structures grand palaces celebrating Persian power, sacred temples honoring the gods, or something far more mysterious? At first glance, Pasargadae's most famous landmark, the tomb of Cyrus, seems straightforward. Yet the surrounding ruins tell a different story. The so-called Palace of Cyrus lacks the opulence you'd expect from a royal residence. Its columns are unadorned, its courtyards austere. Some scholars argue this was intentional, reflecting Cyrus's philosophy of simplicity and humility. Others propose it wasn't a palace at all, but a ceremonial space for coronations or treaty signings. Then there's the enigmatic Zindan-e-Solomon, or Prison of Solomon. This towering stone structure, with its strange stairway leading to nowhere, has fueled wild theories for generations. Mainstream archaeology suggests it was a fire temple for Zoroastrian rituals, but local legends disagree. Persian folklore claims it housed magical texts or even served as Solomon's dungeon for rebellious spirits. The truth, no one knows for certain. The debate intensifies with the tall Etact, a massive stone platform resembling Mesopotamian ziggurats. Was it a fortress, a treasury, or an astronomical observatory? Recent scans reveal hidden chambers beneath, yet their purpose remains unclear. What's striking is how Pasargadae blends cultural influences, Babylonian brickwork, Greek architectural motifs, and Persian artistry, suggesting it was more than just a political capital. Perhaps it was a deliberate fusion of conquered peoples' traditions, a physical manifesto of Cyrus's multicultural empire. Contrast this with Persian oral traditions, which speak of Pasargadae as a paradise on earth, a garden city where Cyrus tested new agricultural techniques. Satellite imagery does show intricate water channels supporting this idea, but why would a conqueror prioritize irrigation over fortifications? Unless, of course, Pasargadae wasn't meant for war at all, but as a living symbol of prosperity and unity. This duality, scholarly skepticism versus folkloric wonder, makes Pasargadae uniquely compelling. Unlike Persepolis, which flaunts its imperial might, Pasargadae whispers riddles. Every theory unravels another thread. Could the complex have been a prototype for Persian urban planning, a spiritual retreat, or even, as some fringe researchers suggest, a coded map to Cyrus's hidden treasures? One thing is certain: Pasargadae refuses to fit neatly into any single category, and that's precisely why it captivates us. It's not just stone and mortar, but a conversation between history and myth. As we leave these ruins behind, prepare to encounter another Persian puzzle where writing itself becomes a mystery. Up next, the Behistun inscriptions, cryptic symbols, and the secrets they may still hold. Now let's turn our attention from the silent stones of Pasargadae to a cliff face that speaks volumes literally. High on the rugged slopes of Mount Behistun in western Iran, a monumental inscription carved over 2,500 years ago has sparked debates just as intense as any archaeological ruin. This is the Behistun inscription, Darius the Great's towering proclamation of power, but could it also be hiding secrets in plain sight? At first glance, the inscription seems straightforward. Etched into the limestone in three languages, Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian, it recounts Darius's rise to power, his battles against rebels, and his divine right to rule. For historians, it was the Rosetta Stone of its time, helping decode cuneiform script and unlock the secrets of ancient Mesopotamia. But look closer and things get intriguing. Why did Darius choose such an inaccessible location, nearly 300 feet above the ground? Was it just for grandeur, or to keep prying eyes away from something more? Some researchers point to oddities in the text's layout. Certain sections of the cuneiform symbols appear slightly misaligned, almost as if they were added later. Could these be corrections or deliberate alterations to conceal sensitive information? One theory suggests Darius embedded coded messages within the inscription, perhaps directions to hidden royal treasuries or warnings about future threats. After all, this was a king who survived multiple assassination attempts. He knew the value of secrecy. Then there's the mysterious figure of the Saka Tigrak Horda, a defeated enemy mentioned in the text. Mainstream history identifies them as a Central Asian tribe, but fringe scholars propose an alternate reading, that the term is a cipher for something else entirely, possibly a rival faction within Darius's own court. Even the inscription's recurring references to the god Ahura Mazda have raised eyebrows. Are these pious declarations, or could they mask prophecies or esoteric teachings meant only for initiated Zoroastrian priests? The most tantalizing theory involves the inscription's visual symbolism. Flanking the text are carvings of Darius and his captured foes. But notice the subtle details, the way Darius's foot rests on one rebel's chest, or the unique gestures of his raised hand. Some argue these poses correspond to specific cuneiform signs, creating a secondary layer of meaning. Imagine a Stone Age crossword puzzle where body language and text interact to reveal hidden truths. Of course, not everyone buys into these ideas. Skeptics argue that the Behistun inscription is exactly what it appears to be, a masterstroke of propaganda designed to awe subjects and deter rebels. Yet even they admit its unusual features, like the fact that Darius ordered the cliff face smoothed below the inscription, making it impossible to approach without ropes. Was this practicality, or a way to ensure only those with the right tools and knowledge could read between the lines? As we step back from Mount Behistun's sheer face, one thing becomes clear. Whether it holds coded messages or not, this inscription is more than a historical document. It's a psychological weapon, a piece of political theater carved in stone. And that duality, the blend of obvious and obscure, makes it a perfect metaphor for the Persian Empire itself. Next, we'll unravel a mystery that glitters with gold and whispers of betrayal, the baffling disappearance of the legendary Elamite treasure. Now, let's shift from the cryptic carvings of Behistun to a mystery that gleams with gold and whispers of ancient plunder. The story of the Elamite treasure is one of conquest, greed, and an enigma that has tantalized treasure hunters for centuries. The tale begins with the prosperous kingdom of Elam, a powerful civilization in what is now southwestern Iran. For generations, the Elamites amassed a staggering fortune: golden artifacts, intricate jewelry, and ceremonial objects that reflected their wealth and artistry. But their riches caught the eye of a ruthless neighbor, the Assyrian Empire. In the 7th century before the Common Era, the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal launched a devastating invasion, sacking the Elamite capital of Susa. Historical records boast of the vast loot carried back to Assyria: precious metals, statues of gods, even the bones of Elamite kings as trophies. Yet here's where the mystery deepens. Despite these detailed accounts, the treasure vanishes from history shortly after. So what happened to it? One theory suggests the Assyrians melted down much of the gold to fund their wars, repurposing sacred objects into coins and weapons. But others believe this explanation doesn't account for the sheer scale of the hoard. Could portions have been hidden or stolen before reaching Assyria? Ancient texts hint at rival factions diverting shipments, while local legends speak of Elamite priests smuggling relics into hidden mountain caves. Some archaeologists point to a curious pattern. Many of the finest Elamite artifacts found today surface far from Assyria, in Anatolia, the Caucasus, even the Indus Valley. Was this treasure deliberately dispersed to keep it from falling into enemy hands? Then there's the tantalizing link to the Achaemenid Persians. When Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon, he claimed to return sacred items looted from Elam centuries earlier. But historians note glaring gaps. Key pieces, like the golden statue of the goddess Inscription, were never accounted for. Did Cyrus recover only a fraction of the hoard, leaving the rest lost? Or did he, too, withhold some treasures for political leverage? Modern metal detectors have occasionally unearthed Elamite-style gold in remote Iranian villages, fueling speculation that fragments of the hoard were buried by fleeing elites or traded secretly over generations. The most enduring rumor, though, involves the Assyrian capital of Nineveh. When it fell in 612 before the Common Era, invaders supposedly discovered vaults of plundered gold, only for it to vanish again during the chaos. Could the Elamite treasure still lie beneath Mesopotamian sands, awaiting discovery like the famed Nimrud gold? Satellite surveys have identified unexplored chambers near ancient Nineveh, but political instability has stalled excavations. Whether melted, scattered, or still hidden, the Elamite hoard's fate reflects a deeper truth about ancient empires. Their wealth was as fluid as their borders. What one ruler stole, another reclaimed or reburied, leaving behind trails of gold and unanswered questions. Next, we'll step into the shadowy world of Persia's spiritual advisors, the enigmatic Magi priests, whose origins and influence remain fiercely debated. Leaving behind the glittering enigma of lost gold, we now turn to a mystery woven not from metal but from faith and power: the elusive origins of Persia's Magi priests. These shadowy figures stand at the crossroads of religion and politics, their influence stretching from royal courts to the battlefield, wrapped in whispers of divine insight and mystical abilities. The Magi emerge in history as the priestly class of Zoroastrianism, Persia's dominant religion, but their roots may dig far deeper. Some scholars argue they descended from an older Median caste of seers and fire worshippers, blending indigenous rituals with the teachings of the prophet Zoroaster. Ancient Greek historians like Herodotus described them as dream interpreters and ritual specialists long before the Achaemenid Empire rose. Their signature practice, reading omens in the flickering flames of sacred fires, hints at ties to even earlier Indo-Iranian traditions. Yet this raises a burning question. Did the Magi adopt Zoroastrianism, or did Zoroaster's reforms reshape their existing beliefs? Their political clout was undeniable. Serving as advisors to kings, the Magi shaped imperial policy with their interpretations of divine will. When Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon, it was the Magi who declared his victory preordained by Ahura Mazda, Zoroastrianism's supreme god. Centuries later, they crowned Darius the Great in a clandestine midnight ceremony, sealing his claim to the throne, but their power wasn't without limits. Herodotus recounts a gruesome tale of Darius purging Magi who attempted a coup, suggesting tensions between priestly and royal authority. Then there are the legends of their supernatural prowess. Classical texts describe the Magi as masters of astrology, capable of divining futures in the stars. Pliny the Elder credits them with inventing magic, literally. Their name gave us the word. Some accounts even allege they could summon storms or curse enemies with rituals involving hayama, a sacred intoxicant. Modern scholars debate how much was genuine spiritual practice versus political theater. Were there miracles, carefully staged displays to awe subjects and rivals alike? The Magi's most enduring legacy, though, lies in their adaptability. After Alexander's conquests shattered Persian power, they survived as keepers of tradition, eventually influencing Roman Mithraism and even early Christian imagery of the three wise men. Yet key puzzles remain. Did they preserve secret doctrines lost to mainstream Zoroastrianism? Why do their earliest rituals, like the haunting Tower of Silence funerary rites, echo prehistoric customs? Perhaps the Magi's true secret was their duality: holy men who wielded earthly power, scholars of light who thrived in the shadows. Next, we'll confront a fiery historical controversy, the Burning of Persepolis, where myth and revenge collide in ashes. Now we arrive at one of history's most debated acts of destruction, the Burning of Persepolis. Was it a calculated act of revenge, a drunken mistake, or a strategic political statement? The answer, much like the smoke that once clouded the Persian sky, remains hazy. Alexander the Great marched into Persepolis in the year 330 B.C., entering the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire as both conqueror and guest. Greek accounts, particularly those of the historian Arrian, claim the burning was retribution for Persia's earlier invasion of Greece. They describe how Athenian courtesan Thais, possibly egged on by Alexander, ignited the royal palace during a raucous celebration, symbolizing payback for Xerxes burning Athens over a century prior. It's a dramatic tale, but how much is fact versus myth? Persian records, though scarcer, tell a different story. Some suggest the fire began accidentally during unrest among occupying troops. Others imply Alexander ordered it deliberately, not out of vengeance, but to solidify his image as Persia's new ruler by erasing its old heart. Archaeologists note something revealing. While the palace burned, nearby treasuries and administrative buildings survived. If this was wholesale revenge, why spare structures holding gold and records? The propaganda angle holds weight. Destroying Persepolis sent an unmistakable message not just to Persia but to Greece. Alexander's campaign relied on Greek support, and torching the enemy's grandest city may have been a performance for his allies. Yet within months he adopted Persian dress and customs, even marrying a Persian noblewoman. This contradiction fuels speculation. Did he regret the fire, or was it always part of a larger plan to dismantle Persian identity before reshaping it under his rule? Perhaps the truth lies in the embers themselves. Excavations show the palace's most sacred spaces, like the Hall of 100 Columns, burned hotter than others, hinting at targeted destruction. Meanwhile, local legends speak of Alexander encountering Cyrus the Great's tomb near Persepolis, leaving it untouched out of respect. If he revered Cyrus but destroyed Xerxes' legacy, was this selective erasure of history? As the flames died, so too did Persia's imperial grandeur, or so it seemed. But as we'll soon discover, the empire's shadows lingered in unexpected places like the sea, where its vanished navy may have escaped to rewrite history. As we shift our focus from the ashes of Persepolis to the open waters, another mystery emerges, one that stretches across the Mediterranean and beyond. The Persian Empire once commanded a formidable naval force, a fleet so vast it struck fear into the hearts of its enemies. Yet after crushing defeats against the Greeks, this mighty armada seemingly vanished from history. What became of these ships, and could they have found refuge in distant lands? The Persian navy was no minor threat. At its peak, it numbered in the hundreds of vessels crewed by skilled Phoenician, Egyptian, and Ionian sailors. These ships were the backbone of Persia's dominance, securing trade routes and launching invasions. But after the disastrous battles of Salamis and Mycale in the early 5th century B.C., the fleet's presence in historical records fades. Did it simply disband, or was there a more intriguing fate? One theory suggests survivors of these battles may have fled westward beyond the reach of Greek retaliation. Ancient accounts, though fragmentary, hint at Persian ships reaching as far as the coast of North Africa or even the Iberian Peninsula. Could these vessels have established hidden colonies, blending with local populations while preserving elements of Persian culture? Some scholars point to unusual archaeological finds, ceramics with Persian motifs in unlikely places, or legends among Mediterranean tribes of Eastern strangers arriving by sea. Another possibility lies in the east. The Persian Gulf and Indian Ocean were well known to Persian navigators. Could defeated admirals have regrouped in distant ports, perhaps even influencing maritime trade networks as far as India? There are tantalizing clues. Greek historian Herodotus mentions Persian ships sailing to the Indus Valley, while later accounts describe mysterious foreign warships appearing along Arabian coasts. If true, these scattered remnants of the fleet might have reshaped regional power dynamics long after Persia's decline. Then there's the question of deliberate disappearance. Naval technology was invaluable, and defeated crews would have been prime targets for recruitment. Did surviving Persian sailors lend their expertise to rising powers like Carthage or the Macedonians, their origins erased by time? The Phoenicians, key builders of Persia's fleet, continued sailing for centuries. Could their vessels have carried Persian secrets into new eras? The sea, ever the keeper of secrets, offers no easy answers, but the absence of Persia's navy only deepens the intrigue. As we'll soon see, even on land, the empire's legacy refused to fade quietly, especially when it came to the cryptic messages left behind in stone. Turning from the mysteries of the sea to the inscriptions of kings, we encounter one of the most debated artifacts of the ancient world, the Cyrus Cylinder. Discovered in Babylon in 1879, this small clay object has sparked enormous controversy. Some hail it as the first declaration of human rights, while others dismiss it as clever political theater. So what does this ancient text truly represent, and why does it still divide historians today? The Cyrus Cylinder was created after Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon in 539 B.C. Its cuneiform text describes his victory and his subsequent policies toward the defeated Babylonians. On the surface, it appears remarkably tolerant for its time. Cyrus claims to have freed enslaved peoples, restored banned religious practices, and allowed displaced populations to return home. These proclamations have led many to celebrate the cylinder as an early blueprint for benevolent rule. But skepticism runs deep. Critics argue these lofty statements were less about morality and more about practical governance. After all, allowing conquered peoples to maintain their traditions was a proven way to prevent rebellions and secure loyalty. The Persian Empire thrived on this strategy of controlled tolerance, using it to manage their vast multicultural territories. The debate intensifies when we compare the cylinder to other historical evidence. Cyrus's treatment of subject nations varied widely. While Babylonians enjoyed relative freedom, other groups faced harsher rule. This inconsistency raises questions. Was the Cylinder's message sincere, or was it tailored specifically to win over Babylonian elites? Adding fuel to the fire are striking parallels between the Cylinder and earlier Mesopotamian texts. Some passages echo traditional royal propaganda, suggesting Cyrus's scribes borrowed familiar themes to legitimize his rule. Even the language of freeing enslaved peoples mirrors phrases used by past kings, casting doubt on its originality. Modern politics have further complicated the discussion. In the 1970s, the Shah of Iran promoted the Cylinder as proof of Iran's historic commitment to human rights, using it for nationalist propaganda. Meanwhile, some Western scholars have perhaps over-romanticized it as a precursor to modern democratic values, an interpretation that risks projecting contemporary ideals onto an ancient context. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Cyrus was undoubtedly a shrewd leader who recognized the benefits of tolerance, but attributing modern humanitarian motives to his policies may be a stretch. Yet mysteries remain. Why does no Persian version of the Cylinder exist, only the Babylonian one? Was this purely a document for local consumption? And if Cyrus truly championed such progressive ideals, why don't other Persian inscriptions echo these sentiments? The silence is deafening. As we peel back the layers of this enigma, we're reminded that ancient artifacts rarely offer simple truths, only tantalizing clues. And with that, we move from the written word to the sacred flame, where another Persian secret flickers in the shadows. Now, as we leave behind the cryptic words of kings, let's descend into the earth itself, where whispers of a hidden Persian city have lingered for centuries. Deep beneath the arid landscapes of Iran, legends speak of Caries, a vast underground labyrinth said to have sheltered entire communities. But was this place a refuge, a military stronghold, or something even more mysterious? The stories of Caries paint a picture of a sprawling subterranean network, with tunnels stretching for miles, complete with living quarters, storage chambers, and even places of worship. Local folklore claims it was built as a sanctuary during invasions, allowing Persians to vanish beneath the earth while enemies searched in vain above. Some tales suggest it connected to surface cities via hidden entrances, enabling surprise attacks or secret trade. Yet despite these vivid accounts, physical evidence remains frustratingly scarce. A handful of crumbling tunnels and shafts have been tentatively linked to Caries, but no definitive discovery has confirmed its full scale or purpose. Archaeologists face a daunting challenge. The region's geology, soft sedimentary rock prone to collapse, makes excavation risky. Worse, many potential sites lie beneath modern towns, rendering them inaccessible. But tantalizing clues persist. Ancient texts mention the cities beneath the cities, and Persian military manuals reference hidden routes used for reconnaissance. Even more intriguing are the region's qanats, ancient water channels that could have doubled as escape routes or secret passages. Could Caries have been an expansion of these ingenious systems? Local myths add layers of intrigue. Some villagers speak of ancestors who fled to Caries during Mongol raids, surviving for years in its shadowy halls. Others whisper of lost treasures walled up in its deepest chambers, guarded by traps or curses. Then there's the theory that Caries wasn't just a hideout but a sacred space, a place where Zoroastrian rituals were performed away from prying eyes. Fire altars found in nearby caves lend some credence to this idea, though no direct link to Caries has been proven. So why does this phantom city captivate us? Perhaps because it embodies the Persian genius for adaptation, turning the very earth into a shield against chaos. Or maybe it's the lingering hope that somewhere beneath the dust and whispers, a forgotten chapter of history waits to be uncovered. For now, Caries remains a puzzle woven from fragments of fact and folklore, urging us to keep digging both literally and figuratively. And as we resurface from these depths, another enigma calls to us, one tied not to the earth, but to the elite warriors who shaped an empire's destiny. Now, shifting our gaze from hidden cities to legendary warriors, let's step onto the training grounds of Persia's most feared fighters, the Immortals. This elite unit, 10,000 strong, was the empire's razor-edged shield, a force so disciplined they seemed to vanish and reappear like phantoms on the battlefield. Ancient historians claimed their numbers never dwindled. Fallen soldiers were instantly replaced, creating the illusion of immortality. But behind the myth lies a far more fascinating truth, a brutal, ritualized training regime that forged ordinary men into near-superhuman soldiers. The Immortals weren't born warriors, they were made. Recruits selected from Persia's finest youth endured years of grueling preparation. Days began before dawn with marches under crushing loads, their progress timed by the rising sun. They trained in scorching heat and freezing cold, mastering the art of fighting exhausted. Weapons drills were relentless. Archers loosed hundreds of arrows daily until their fingers bled, while spearmen practiced formations until movements became instinct. But physical prowess was just the foundation. The true test was mental. Candidates were starved of sleep, forced to solve tactical problems in haze of fatigue, teaching them to think clearly amid the chaos of war. What set the Immortals apart, though, was their mastery of psychological warfare. They moved in eerie silence, their identical armor and veiled faces stripping away individuality, making each soldier seem interchangeable and unkillable. Greek historians, their primary adversaries, spun tales of the Immortals' supernatural stamina, claiming they could march for days without rest. Modern scholars, however, suggest a simpler explanation: meticulous logistics. Each warrior was attended by servants carrying spare weapons, rations, and even personal luxuries, ensuring peak performance. Their famed endless numbers likely relied on a rotating reserve system, with fresh troops cycling seamlessly into battle. Yet some mysteries persist. Secret texts describe rituals where recruits ingested hallucinogenic herbs to see beyond the veil of fear, possibly a form of ancient battle trance induction. Others reference a sacred oath sworn in fire-lit caves, binding the unit to the empire's divine mandate. Were these ceremonies real or propaganda to terrify enemies? The answer may lie in recent discoveries near Persepolis, where carvings depict masked figures undergoing trials by flame and blade. The Immortals' legacy endures not just in their battlefield feats, but in the questions they leave us. Were they truly the unstoppable force of legend, or a brilliantly marketed symbol of Persian might? Perhaps both. Their greatest weapon wasn't steel, but the stories woven around them, stories we're still unraveling today. And as we lower their gilded masks, another shadowy figure steps forward, a king whose death carries the scent of treachery and poisoned wine. From warriors to whispers in the palace halls, we now step into one of Persia's most chilling mysteries, a royal death shrouded in betrayal. The demise of King Artaxerxes II wasn't just tragic, it reeked of conspiracy. Ancient accounts claim he collapsed at a banquet, clutching his throat after sipping wine. But was this merely illness or a calculated murder? The truth lies buried in layers of palace intrigue, where power-hungry nobles and vengeful family members swirl like shadows. At the heart of this mystery stands Queen Parysatis, Artaxerxes' own mother, a woman as brilliant as she was ruthless. Some historians paint her as the architect of his poisoning, driven by vengeance for her favorite son, Cyrus the Younger, whom Artaxerxes had killed in battle years earlier. Court records describe her hosting private feasts where tasters sampled dishes first, yet the king's wine cup mysteriously bypassed inspection, even more damning. Parysatis' chief servant, a eunuch named Gyges, vanished shortly after the death, fueling rumors he administered the fatal dose, but the queen wasn't the only suspect. Artaxerxes' wife, Statera, had her own motives. As the daughter of a rival noble house, she sought to elevate her children's status, and some tablets suggest she conspired with court physicians to slip poison into his medicine. Then there's the satrap Tisiphons, whose loyalty was questionable at best. Documents reveal he'd secretly corresponded with Greek mercenaries, raising questions about a coup. With so many players, the palace was less a home and more a viper's nest. Modern toxicology offers clues too. Archaeologists studying residue in Persian-era goblets found traces of hellebore and aconite plants known for causing paralysis and cardiac arrest. These toxins were undetectable in wine, making them perfect for discreet assassinations. Even the timing fits. Artaxerxes died just as he prepared to name an heir, a decision that would have enraged whichever faction lost favor. Perhaps the darkest twist, Artaxerxes might have suspected his fate. Scrolls recovered from Susa describe him dismissing his usual food taster days before his death, muttering about trusting no one but the gods. Whether that was paranoia or prescience, we'll never know. What remains is a chilling lesson in how power corrupts and how even kings can fall to a single, silent sip. And as the echoes of this betrayal fade, we turn next to a sacred vanishing act, the lost fire temples of Zoroastrian priests whose flickering altars disappeared without a trace. Now we journey from the treacherous courts of kings to the sacred flames that once illuminated Persia's spiritual heart. The lost fire temples of Zoroastrianism are more than just vanished buildings, they were the beating pulse of a faith that shaped empires. These temples housed eternal flames, symbols of divine truth and purity, guarded day and night by priests. Yet today, many of their locations remain stubbornly hidden, as if the earth itself swallowed them whole. Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, centered around the worship of fire as a manifestation of Ahura Mazda, the god of wisdom. The temples weren't just places of prayer, they were political powerhouses. Kings sought blessings from their priests before battles, and the temple's fires were said to reflect the health of the empire itself. The most revered, the Adur-Burzan-Mihr temple, was believed to house a flame kindled by the prophet Zoroaster himself. But despite its fame, not a single stone of it has been definitively identified by modern archaeologists. So why are these temples so hard to find? Unlike Persia's grand palaces, fire temples were often built modestly, with simple mud brick structures that eroded over centuries. Many stood in remote mountain regions, like the supposed site of Adur-Gushnasp in modern-day Azerbaijan, where landslides and shifting terrain could have buried them completely. Others might have been deliberately hidden. When Islam swept through Persia in the 7th century, some Zoroastrians may have concealed their temples to protect them from destruction, leaving only cryptic clues in ancient texts. One tantalizing lead comes from a 9th century chronicle describing a temple where the fire speaks. Scholars speculate this refers to a natural gas vent near the Caspian Sea, where flames could have seemed supernatural. Expeditions have scoured the area, but no temple ruins match the description. Even more puzzling are accounts of floating fires in the Dasht-e-Kavir desert, possibly fueled by underground oil seepages. Could these phenomena have been harnessed by priests to create miraculous displays? Without physical evidence, it's all theory. Modern technology hasn't given up the search. Satellite imagery has flagged potential sites in Iran's Fars province, where thermal anomalies suggest buried structures. Ground-penetrating radar detected strange, circular foundations near Yazd, a city still home to Zoroastrians. But excavations revealed only ash pits, possibly from ritual fires. The challenge: Zoroastrians often rebuilt temples on the same sacred ground, leaving layer upon layer of ruins that blur into one. Perhaps the greatest clue lies in the faith's own teachings. Zoroastrians believed fire was immortal, so temples were never truly lost, just waiting to be rediscovered. As we turn from these elusive flames, our next mystery plunges into the earth itself. Rumors of a vast underground city where Persians may have taken refuge from invaders. A labyrinth of secrets still hidden beneath the dust. shifting from sacred flames to the dust of ancient highways, we uncover another Persian enigma, what truly lay beneath the surface of the royal road. This legendary route stretched over 1,600 miles, connecting distant corners of the empire from Susa to Sardis. But was it merely a trade artery, or did shadows of intrigue lurk along its hidden branches? The royal road's official purpose was clear. Built under Darius I, it allowed swift communication across Persia's vast territories. Couriers on horseback could deliver messages in just 7 days thanks to a network of way stations. Yet whispers persist of clandestine offshoots, paths known only to imperial agents. Greek historian Herodotus described the road's efficiency but hinted at roads unseen, where spies might slip past enemy lines. Could these covert routes explain how Persian intelligence seemed to outmaneuver rivals time and again? Trade records tell a tantalizing tale. Archives from Persepolis mention shipments rerouted to obscure villages far from main thoroughfares. Some cargo, like sealed scroll cases or lightweight parcels of lapis lazuli, seemed too small for standard trade, fueling theories they carried coded dispatches. Even more telling are geographic oddities. In Turkey's rugged Cappadocia region, local guides still point to narrow cliffside trails that vanish into caves. These match 9th-century accounts of messenger paths used during rebellions where rebels intercepted royal couriers but never found certain messages. Were these the empire's secret postal lines? Modern archaeologists face a puzzle. The main road's remnants, like stone mile markers, are well documented, but potential secondary paths are harder to trace. Satellite surveys in western Iran revealed faint, parallel depressions running through valleys, possibly eroded donkey tracks from auxiliary routes. Meanwhile, in central Afghanistan, a team found a buried way station with 2 gates, one facing the main road, another leading into a mountain pass. The second gate's threshold was unusually worn, suggesting frequent use. Yet no contemporary maps confirm its purpose. Perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the system's design. Persian engineers were masters of adaptation, building roads that followed natural contours. In the Zagros Mountains, main routes deliberately avoided narrow gorges, prime ambush spots, yet local herders speak of old king's trails cutting through these very ravines. Perfect for moving unseen. As we piece together these fragments, another mystery emerges from the depths, a rumored underground city where the empire's secrets may still lie buried. Turning from hidden roads to palace intrigues, we enter the shadowy world of Persia's royal court, where power struggles often ended in bloodshed. The mysterious death of Queen Statera, wife of Artaxerxes II, remains one of history's most tantalizing unsolved crimes. Ancient sources paint a picture of a bitter rivalry between Statera and her mother-in-law, Queen Parysatis, that may have turned deadly. Statera was more than just a queen, she was a political force. Unlike many royal consorts, she actively participated in governance, advocating for Greek prisoners and mediating conflicts. This made her popular among the people but threatened Parysatis, who saw her influence waning. The historian Plutarch records that Statera dined with Parysatis shortly before falling violently ill and dying. Suspicion immediately fell on the elder queen, who was known for her ruthlessness. The smoking dagger in this case, a roasted bird. According to accounts, Parysatis sliced the meat with a knife only she touched, a knife allegedly coated with a slow-acting poison. When Statera ate the tainted portion, she suffered for hours before succumbing. The method was cunning. Since Parysatis also ate from the same dish but avoided the poisoned section, she created plausible deniability. Even more chilling, court physicians reportedly recognized the symptoms as a rare toxin derived from desert plants, one Parysatis was known to keep in her gardens. Yet ambiguity lingers. Some scholars argue Statera's death could have been natural, perhaps a sudden illness exacerbated by the era's limited medical knowledge. Others point to Artaxerxes himself. Though he publicly mourned, he stood to benefit from removing a queen whose policies sometimes clashed with his own. The king's odd inaction, never ordering a formal investigation, raises eyebrows. Modern forensics adds intrigue. Researchers analyzing Persian toxicology texts note that the described symptoms match alkaloid poisoning, which causes paralysis and organ failure. Such poisons were untraceable with ancient methods, making them perfect tools for royal assassins. Even the location hints at guilt. The meal occurred in Parasoti's private chambers, where servants loyal only to her handled the food. What makes this mystery endure isn't just the whodunit angle, but what it reveals about Persian power structures. Queens weren't mere ornaments. They commanded armies of informants and controlled vast wealth. Statera's death reshaped the court, allowing Parasotis to install a more pliant queen. As we leave the palace's gilded halls, another dark legend calls this one tied to Persia's enigmatic fire temples and the sacred flames that may still hold untold secrets. Now let's step from the shadowy corridors of palace intrigue into the sacred realm of Persia's spiritual influence, where echoes of an ancient faith may have secretly shaped one of Rome's most enigmatic cults. The so-called Mithraic mysteries, celebrated by Roman soldiers and elites, bear striking resemblances to much older Persian traditions centered around the god Mithra. But was this a case of direct borrowing or something more subtle? In Persia, Mithra was a deity of contracts, light, and cosmic order, a divine enforcer of truth who predated Zoroastrianism. His worship involved rituals under open skies, bull sacrifices, and communal meals, all meant to invoke his protective power. Fast forward to Roman territories centuries later, and we find Mithras, a god with nearly identical attributes, worshipped in underground temples by initiates who underwent secretive trials. The parallels are uncanny. Both gods were associated with solar imagery, both demanded moral purity, and both were tied to a sacred bull-slaying myth. Even the iconic Roman depiction of Mithras killing a bull mirrors earlier Persian art. Yet here's the twist. While the similarities are undeniable, the Romans left no written records admitting Persian influence. This has fueled scholarly debates. Some argue that Persian ideas traveled westward through captured soldiers or traders, evolving into the Roman version. Others suggest a deliberate rebranding that Roman authorities cloaked Persian roots to make the cult feel uniquely Roman. Intriguingly, archaeology hints at middlemen. In places like Anatolia, hybrid Mithraic reliefs blend Persian and Roman styles, as if the cult transformed during its journey. The secrecy of Mithraic rites deepens the mystery. Initiates sworn never to reveal their rituals, leaving historians to piece together clues from temple ruins and fragmented texts. What we do know is that Persian Mithra was a public, state-supported deity, while Roman Mithras was exclusive, accessible only to those who endured grueling initiations. Was this shift strategic? Perhaps Rome's militarized version appealed to legionaries craving brotherhood and divine favor, far from Persia's communal worship. One tantalizing theory involves the pirate turn, Dalai King Mithridates of Pontus, whose name literally means gift of Mithra. His battles with Rome in the 1st century BCE may have inadvertently spread Persian ideas. Captured soldiers could have carried fragments of Mithraic lore into Roman camps, where they merged with local beliefs. Alternatively, Zoroastrian refugees fleeing Arab conquest centuries later might have kept the flame alive in Roman territories. The debate isn't just academic, it's about how cultures secretly converse across borders. If the Mithraic cult did borrow from Persia, it did so quietly, adapting symbols to fit Roman tastes while preserving core themes of light conquering darkness. This cultural alchemy reminds us that empires traded more than goods. They exchanged gods, myths, and ways of seeing the world. As we ponder these spiritual connections, another Persian enigma calls, one that burned bright in the hearts of believers but vanished from the earth. The lost fire temples of Zoroastrianism held flames said to be eternal. Where did they go, and could their ashes still whisper secrets? Now, shifting our gaze from the whispered rituals of mystery cults to the silent halls of forgotten scholarship, we uncover another Persian puzzle, the vanished library of Gondeshapur. Once a beacon of knowledge in the Sasanian Empire, this legendary repository held scrolls spanning medicine, astronomy, philosophy, and more, drawing scholars from across the ancient world. Yet when invasions ravaged Persia, the library disappeared, leaving historians to wonder, was its wisdom truly lost, or did fragments survive in secret? Gondeshapur wasn't just a library. It was an intellectual powerhouse, home to a renowned academy where Greek, Indian, and Persian ideas fused. Physicians like Burzo, the royal doctor, translated Sanskrit and Greek texts into Pahlavi, creating a vast medical corpus. Astronomers charted the skies using Zoroastrian and Babylonian methods. The library's shelves likely held works by Hippocrates, Aristotle, and Indian sages, treasures that could rewrite our understanding of ancient science. Then came the Arab conquests in the 7th century. While some accounts claim the library was destroyed, others suggest a more nuanced fate. Here's where the mystery deepens. Unlike the infamous burning of Alexandria, Gondeshapur's disappearance lacks dramatic flames in the historical record. Instead, there are intriguing gaps. Zoroastrian priests facing persecution were known to hide sacred texts in caves or sealed chambers to protect them. Could scholars have done the same with Gondeshapur's scrolls? Byzantine and Syriac sources hint at mass evacuations of Persian scholars, some fleeing westward with manuscripts. Even more compelling, the rise of Baghdad's House of Wisdom just decades later. Many of its foundational texts echo Gondeshapur's known holdings, suggesting a covert transfer of knowledge. One tantalizing clue lies in the journey of the Gondeshapur Medical School. After the fall of the Sasanians, its physicians became court doctors for the Abbasid caliphs, bringing Persian medical techniques to Baghdad. Did they carry scrolls with them? The famous Zij al-Shah, a star catalogue linked to Gondeshapur, resurfaces in Arabic astronomy, adapted but unmistakably Persian in origin. Even the design of early Islamic hospitals mirrors Gondeshapur's model, down to the use of healing gardens, a detail too precise to be coincidence. The question of smuggling isn't just speculative. Persian nobles and priests had strong incentives to preserve their heritage. The Denkard, a later Zoroastrian text, mentions books saved from the storm, possibly referencing rescue efforts during invasions. Meanwhile, Central Asian trading routes buzzed with merchants who could have smuggled texts eastward. Recent discoveries of Sasanian-era manuscripts in Buddhist caves along the Silk Road raise the possibility that Gondeshapur's knowledge traveled farther than anyone imagined. Yet the library's full legacy remains elusive. Unlike the Behistun inscription or Cyrus Cylinder, its physical traces have vanished. Modern archaeologists scour riverbanks near Gondeshapur's ruins, searching for cellar vaults mentioned in medieval texts. Satellite imaging reveals unexplored underground chambers, but political instability hampers digs. Until then, we're left with whispers, a Greek medical treatise quoting a lost Persian source, or an Arabic historian crediting the old academy for a surgical technique. This isn't just about lost books, it's about the fragile threads connecting civilizations. If Gondeshapur's scrolls were saved, they might still lie hidden in monastery attics, private collections, or desert sands, waiting to reveal how much of our modern knowledge has ancient Persian roots. As we turn the page on this vanished library, another architectural marvel beckons, one that defies gravity and legend alike. Were the fabled hanging gardens of Babylon actually Persian? But before we unravel the mystery of the hanging gardens, let's step into the quiet streets of modern-day Hamadan, where a humble shrine stirs a storm of debate. Known as the Tomb of Esther and Mordecai, this site is revered by Jews as the burial place of the biblical queen who saved their people from annihilation, yet Persian historians tell a different story. So, is this really where Esther lies, or is it a case of mistaken identity spanning centuries? The shrine itself is unassuming, a brick-domed structure with Hebrew inscriptions, nestled in a city once called Ecbatana, the summer capital of the Persian Empire. Jewish pilgrims have prayed here for generations, honoring Esther's courage in thwarting Haman's genocide plot, as told in the Book of Esther, but dig deeper and the timeline wobbles. The Bible places Esther in the court of Xerxes I, who ruled in the 5th century before the Common Era. Yet architectural studies of the tomb suggest it dates to no earlier than the 12th century of the Common Era, a gap of over 1,500 years. How could Esther be buried in a building constructed so long after her death? Persian accounts add another layer of intrigue. Local lore claims the tomb actually belongs to Shushan-Dokht, a Jewish queen of the Sasanian era, who married King Yazdijerd I in the 4th century of the Common Era. This queen, like Esther, was said to have intervened to protect Persia's Jewish community. Some scholars argue that over time, her story merged with Esther's legend, blurring the lines between history and tradition. Even the name Esther might be a clue derived from the Persian word seter, meaning star, a title that could have been used for multiple royal women. Then there's the matter of Mordecai. In the Bible, he's Esther's cousin and adoptive father, but Persian texts describe him as a vizier or high official. The shrine's second tomb is attributed to him, yet no ancient Persian records mention a Mordecai in royal service. Could this be a case of symbolic rather than literal burial, a monument to the idea of protection rather than the individuals themselves? Archaeology hasn't settled the debate. Excavations are limited due to the site's religious sensitivity, though ground-penetrating radar hints at older foundations beneath the current structure. Meanwhile, a rival claim emerges from Iran's Jewish community in Susa, where another tomb is venerated as Esther's true resting place. That site, however, lacks the historical footprint of Hamadan's connection to Persian royalty. What's undeniable is the shrine's cultural power. For Jews, it's a lifeline to their ancient Persian heritage, a tangible link to the Purim story's triumph. For Iranians, it's a testament to the country's long history of religious coexistence. The truth may lie somewhere in between, a fusion of fact and faith where legends outlive empires. As we close this chapter, another royal mystery calls one wrapped in betrayal and ambition. Did Darius III meet his end at the hands of his own nobles? Now let's dive beneath the waves, literally, where the Persian Gulf holds secrets swallowed by time. Along its shifting shores, underwater archaeologists have uncovered tantalizing clues of ancient ports and settlements, now submerged under layers of water and sediment. Could these ruins be remnants of once thriving Persian trade hubs, lost to rising seas or sudden disasters? The answers may rewrite our understanding of the empire's maritime reach. The Persian Gulf wasn't always the expanse we see today. During the height of the Achaemenid Empire, sea levels were significantly lower, exposing vast stretches of land that are now underwater. Recent sonar scans and dives near modern-day Bahrain and the Iranian coast have revealed stone foundations, pottery shards, and even remnants of docks, structures that align perfectly with descriptions of Persian trading posts in ancient texts. These weren't just random outposts, they were lifelines for an empire that depended on maritime trade for spices, textiles, and precious metals. But what sent these cities to the depths? One theory points to gradual environmental change. Around 2,400 years ago, rising sea levels began flooding coastal areas, forcing settlements to retreat inland. Yet some sites show signs of something more abrupt: collapsed walls, scattered artifacts, and layers of sediment that suggest a catastrophic event like a tsunami or earthquake. Persian records mention a great upheaval in the region, but details are scarce. Could this have been the moment these ports vanished beneath the waves? Complicating the puzzle are local legends. Fishermen along the Gulf still speak of the Drowned Kingdom, a prosperous city punished by the gods for its arrogance. Similar tales appear in Mesopotamian texts describing a wealthy port swallowed by the sea overnight. While myth and history often blur, these stories echo the archaeological evidence of sudden destruction. The most compelling case lies off the coast of Oman, where divers discovered a sprawling network of stone structures resembling storage warehouses and administrative buildings. The design matches known Persian architecture, and recovered artifacts include seals bearing Achaemenid symbols. But here's the twist: carbon dating places the site's collapse around 350 years before the Common Era, centuries before sea levels rose significantly. This hints at a different culprit, perhaps a massive storm or even a tectonic shift that destabilized the coastline. Efforts to explore these sites face daunting challenges. The Gulf's murky waters and strong currents make excavation difficult, and political tensions limit access for international teams. Still, every recovered artifact adds a piece to the puzzle, a pottery fragment here, a coin there, each whispering of a time when these drowned cities pulsed with life. As the sea continues to guard its secrets, one thing is clear: the Persian Empire's legacy isn't just written on land. Beneath the waves, the ruins of its maritime ambition wait to be fully uncovered, offering a glimpse into a world where trade routes stretched as far as the horizon, and sometimes beyond it. Next, we turn to a mystery etched in stone, the cryptic Deva inscriptions of Darius I, where words and warnings defy easy translation. Shifting from the depths of the sea to the shadows of the Persian court, we arrive at one of history's most controversial deaths, the fate of Darius III. The last king of the Achaemenid Empire didn't just lose his throne to Alexander the Great. He met an end shrouded in betrayal, with whispers of conspiracy that still divide historians today. Was his death the tragic finale of a defeated ruler, or something far more sinister? The conventional narrative, drawn from Greek accounts like those of Arrian and Curtius Rufus, paints Darius as a fleeing man, abandoned by his own nobles after Alexander's relentless victories. According to these sources, the king was mortally wounded by his satrap Bessus and other conspirators near the city of Bactra, left to die in a cart as they seized power for themselves. It's a dramatic tale, one that casts Darius as a sympathetic figure and his assassins as opportunists. But Persian records, though scarcer, tell a subtly different story. Fragments from Babylonian chronicles suggest Darius wasn't merely a victim of ambition. He may have been actively undermined by factions within his court long before his final days. Here's where the mystery deepens. Bessus, the satrap accused of delivering the fatal blow, wasn't just a rogue governor. He was Darius's own kinsman, a distant cousin with a legitimate claim to the throne. Some scholars argue his actions weren't impulsive treachery but part of a calculated power struggle. Persian royal tradition allowed for the overthrow of ineffective rulers, and by the time of Gaugamela, Darius's military failures had eroded his support. Could Bessus and his allies have seen the king's removal as a desperate bid to save the empire from collapse? The physical evidence adds another layer of intrigue. Ancient accounts describe Darius bound in golden chains at the time of his death, a detail that feels oddly ceremonial for a simple murder. Some historians speculate this was a symbolic act, a ritual humiliation reserved for deposed kings. Even more telling is Alexander's reaction. Upon finding Darius's body, he reportedly draped his own cloak over it and arranged a royal funeral, a gesture that reads less like respect for an enemy and more like political theater. Did Alexander use Darius's death to legitimize his own rule, framing himself as the king's avenger? Then there's the question of timing. Darius died just as Alexander was closing in, leaving the Macedonian conqueror to face a fractured Persian resistance rather than a unified empire. Coincidence or convenience? Some modern historians propose that Alexander's agents may have encouraged the conspiracy, exploiting discontent among the satraps. It's a theory supported by the swiftness with which Alexander integrated Persian nobles into his administration afterward, including pardoning Behistun co-conspirators. The conflicting accounts leave us with two starkly different Dariuses, the tragic ruler betrayed in his darkest hour and the ineffective monarch whose own court turned against him. What's undeniable is that his death marked the end of an era, but whether it was a coup, a sacrifice, or a carefully staged transition of power remains one of Persia's most enduring puzzles. Now let's turn to a mystery that defies even the Earth's grasp: the elusive whereabouts of the Hanging Gardens, and the startling possibility that they weren't in Babylon at all. But before we unravel the fate of Darius III, let's venture into a mystery that has tantalized historians and gardeners alike: the legendary Hanging Gardens. For centuries, these lush terraces have been celebrated as one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, a marvel of Babylonian engineering. But what if everything we think we know about them is wrong? What if these gardens weren't in Babylon at all, but hidden somewhere in the heart of Persia? The traditional story, passed down through Greek and Roman writers like Strabo and Diodorus Siculus, credits the gardens to King Nebuchadnezzar II, who supposedly built them in the 6th century before the Common Era to comfort his homesick Median wife, Amytis. The image is romantic, towering tiers of greenery, exotic plants cascading down stone walls, and intricate irrigation systems defying the arid Mesopotamian climate. Yet here's the problem: not a single Babylonian text, inscription, or archaeological find from Nebuchadnezzar's reign ever mentions these gardens. Even more puzzling, when Herodotus, the so-called father of history, visited Babylon in the 5th century before the Common Era, he described its walls, temples, and palaces in meticulous detail, but never once noted the gardens. This glaring absence has led scholars like Stephanie Daly of Oxford University to propose a radical alternative. The Hanging Gardens weren't in Babylon, but in the Persian city of Nineveh, built a century earlier by the Assyrian king Sennacherib. Daly's theory hinges on deciphered cuneiform tablets describing Sennacherib's palace complex, complete with an elaborate garden watered by a system of screws and aqueducts, an engineering feat matching ancient accounts of the gardens. Even the term hanging might be a mistranslation. The original Greek word could refer to terraces or overhanging plants, a design common in Assyrian architecture. But if the gardens were Persian, why did Greek historians relocate them to Babylon? One possibility is confusion between two rival empires, Assyria and Babylon, whose capitals were both sacked and rebuilt multiple times. Another is deliberate propaganda. Alexander the Great, who admired Cyrus the Great and sought to position himself as Persia's heir, might have encouraged the Babylon connection to overshadow Assyrian achievements. The physical evidence is equally provocative. Excavations in Nineveh have revealed remnants of aqueducts and garden terraces, while Babylon's arid ruins show no trace of the massive water infrastructure needed to sustain such lush vegetation. Yet the debate is far from settled. Without a smoking gun, a definitive inscription or artwork depicting the gardens, the mystery endures. So were the Hanging Gardens a Babylonian fantasy, an Assyrian masterpiece misattributed by history, or something else entirely? Until new evidence emerges, this wonder remains rooted in legend, its true location, and even its existence still hanging in the balance. And speaking of legendary wonders, let's journey next to the edges of the empire, where whispers of forgotten Persian colonies hint at a network of influence stretching far beyond what maps reveal. Now let's turn our attention to the edges of the map, where the Persian Empire's reach stretched far beyond its heartland into lands shrouded in mystery. The existence of forgotten Persian colonies in places like Africa and the Caucasus raises tantalizing questions. Were these settlements military strongholds, strategic outposts guarding the empire's frontiers, or hubs of cultural exchange where Persian ideas mingled with local traditions? The answers might rewrite our understanding of Persia's influence, Take the colony at Elephantine, an island in the Nile near modern-day Aswan. Here, archaeologists have uncovered a thriving Persian community dating back to the 5th century before the Common Era. But this wasn't just a military garrison. The settlers built a temple to Yahweh, evidence of a surprising religious syncretism. Even more intriguing, papyri found at the site reveal letters written in Aramaic, the empire's administrative language detailing daily life, legal disputes, and even interactions with local Egyptian rulers. This suggests a complex, multicultural society where Persian officials, Jewish mercenaries, and Egyptian neighbors coexisted. Then there's the Caucasus, where traces of Persian presence emerge in the highlands of modern-day Georgia and Armenia. Fortresses like the one at Tsikhagoji bear Persian architectural hallmarks, but their purpose remains debated. Some historians argue these were defensive structures, part of a network to control mountain passes and repel nomadic invasions. Others point to artifacts like silver rhytons, drinking vessels adorned with Persian motifs found in local burials, hinting at elite trade or diplomatic gifts. Could these outposts have been bridges between Persia and the steppe cultures to the north? The mystery deepens with Herodotus's account of Persian settlements along the Libyan coast. He describes a group of Persian exiles sent by Darius the Great to establish a colony near modern-day Benghazi. If true, this would mark Persia's farthest western expansion. Yet no physical evidence of this colony has been found, leaving historians to wonder, was it abandoned, destroyed, or simply lost to time? What makes these colonies so fascinating is their duality. On one hand, they served the empire's practical needs, securing borders, controlling trade routes, and projecting power. On the other, they became melting pots where Persian customs blended with local traditions. A clay tablet from the Caucasus mentions Zoroastrian priests performing rites alongside local deities, while a Greek historian notes Persian-style gardens planted in the Nile Valley. These fragments suggest an empire that wasn't just conquering but adapting. So were these colonies instruments of control or catalysts of connection? The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Persia's genius lay in its ability to balance hard power with cultural flexibility, and these distant settlements exemplify that duality. As excavations continue, each discovery peels back another layer of this enigmatic chapter in imperial history. And as we reflect on these far-flung outposts, we're drawn next to an even more cryptic puzzle, the Deva inscriptions of Darius I, where the king's words hint at rebellions and cosmic struggles veiled in ancient script. Now let's unravel one of the most cryptic puzzles left behind by the Persian Empire, the Deva inscriptions of Darius I. Carved into the cliffs of Naksh-e-Rustam and Behistun, these enigmatic texts have baffled scholars for centuries. At first glance, they appear to be typical royal proclamations, celebrating the king's victories and divine mandate. But hidden within the cuneiform script are references to something far more mysterious, the Devas. Who or what were the Devas? The term itself is slippery. In Zoroastrian tradition, Devas were malevolent spirits, adversaries of the righteous god Ahura Mazda. Yet Darius's inscriptions describe them differently. He boasts of suppressing rebellions where the lying kings worshipped these Devas, defying Persian authority. Some historians argue this was a political smear, branding rebels as heretics to justify their defeat. Others see something darker, a cosmic struggle between order and chaos, woven into the empire's official history. The most tantalizing clue comes from the Behistun inscription, where Darius recounts crushing a revolt in Elam. He claims the rebels destroyed sanctuaries dedicated to Ahura Mazda and erected Deva temples in their place. But here's the twist: no archaeological evidence of these temples has ever been found. Were they purged so thoroughly that not a brick remains, or was Darius using metaphor, framing a mundane revolt as a holy war to bolster his legitimacy? Then there's the theory that the Devas weren't spirits at all, but a rival priesthood. The Magi, Persia's Zoroastrian elite, held immense power. Could the Devas have been dissident priests preaching an alternate version of the faith? A fragmentary text from Persepolis mentions Deva worshippers executed for treason, hinting at a theological underground. If true, it would mean Darius wasn't just fighting rebels, he was purging heresy. The mystery deepens when we compare these inscriptions to older Mesopotamian texts. In Babylonian lore, the Dingir were divine beings, both benevolent and destructive. Did Darius borrow this concept, reshaping it to suit his narrative, or was he documenting a genuine clash of beliefs lost to time? Even the grammar of the inscriptions is odd. The word Deva shifts between singular and plural, as if referring to both a force and its followers. What makes these inscriptions so compelling is their duality. They're political propaganda, yes, but also a window into Persia's spiritual anxieties. When Darius declares, "By the grace of Ahura Mazda, I destroyed the Deva cult," was he celebrating a military victory or a theological one? The ambiguity is deliberate, blurring the line between earth and heaven, king and god. As we piece together these fragments, we're left with more questions than answers. Were the Devas rebels, demons, or something in between? Perhaps the truth lies in the silence, the gaps between the words where history whispers. And as we ponder these ancient riddles, our journey takes us next to the bustling trade routes of the Silk Road, where vanished caravans and lost treasures hint at yet another Persian mystery. Now we turn our gaze to the legendary Silk Road, where whispers of vanished Persian caravans and their priceless cargoes still haunt the deserts and mountains of Central Asia. This network of trade routes wasn't just about silk. It was the lifeblood of the Persian Empire, funneling spices, gold, glassware, and ideas across continents. But not all these journeys ended safely. Somewhere along those treacherous paths, entire caravans disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only tantalizing legends and unanswered questions. Take the case of the Merv Oasis, a bustling hub in modern-day Turkmenistan. Ancient texts speak of a Persian caravan laden with lapis lazuli and saffron that vanished en route to China. Local folklore claims the merchants were ambushed by bandits, their bodies and goods buried beneath the shifting sands. Yet archaeologists have found no evidence of such a massacre. Could the story be a metaphor for a natural disaster? The Karakum Desert is notorious for sudden sandstorms that swallow everything in their path. Perhaps the caravan met its end in one of these violent tempests. Then there's the mystery of the ghost caravan near the Pamir Mountains. 19th century explorers reported finding skeletal remains of camels and men, along with fragments of Persian ceramics in a remote valley. The arrangement suggested they'd been fleeing something, but what? Was it a raid by nomadic tribes or something more sinister? A cache of coins found at the site dated to the reign of Artaxerxes I, hinting at a mid-journey tragedy around 2,400 years ago. Stranger still, the coins were scattered as if dropped in panic, yet no weapons or signs of conflict were nearby. The most intriguing disappearance involves a royal shipment mentioned in a clay tablet from Persepolis. It describes a convoy carrying the king's gift, possibly jewelry or ceremonial weapons, to a distant satrapy. The tablet ends abruptly, noting the caravan never arrived. Modern infrared surveys of the proposed route have revealed unnatural mounds under the soil in eastern Iran. Could these be the remnants of collapsed storage chambers, their treasures still hidden inside? The area's salt flats preserve organic material exceptionally well, raising the possibility that silk or spices could survive intact. What makes these lost caravans so compelling is the potential for discovery. Unlike shipwrecks which sink to predictable depths, land routes leave fewer clues. A sandstorm might bury a caravan in hours, sealing it like a time capsule. In 2014, a farmer in Uzbekistan accidentally unearthed a stash of Persian silver vessels while plowing his field, proof that such treasures still lie waiting. Theories abound about where the richest hoards might be. Some scholars point to the dashed Cavia, a salt desert where mirages disorient travelers. Others speculate caravans diverted to hidden mountain passes to avoid taxes, only to be trapped by avalanches. One enduring legend speaks of a valley of golden statues, where a Persian merchant prince abandoned his wealth to escape pursuing enemies. No such valley has been found, but satellite imagery has identified strange geometric patterns in eastern Afghanistan that could mark ancient storage pits. As we piece together these fragments, the Silk Road emerges not just as a trade route, but as a graveyard of dreams and ambition. Every missing caravan is a story cut short, a merchant who never returned home, a gift that never reached its recipient. And somewhere beneath the dunes or locked in mountain caves, the empire's lost riches may still lie, waiting to rewrite history. Our journey through Persia's unsolved secrets now leads us to one final enigma, the undiscovered tombs of the Achaemenid kings, where untold splendor may rest in darkness. Turning now from the whispers of lost caravans to the silent majesty of forgotten kings, we arrive at one of Persia's most tantalizing secrets, the undiscovered tombs of the Achaemenid rulers. While the grand mausoleums of kings like Cyrus and Darius have captivated historians, dozens of lesser-known royals from this dynasty vanished into obscurity, their burial sites swallowed by time. But modern technology is peeling back the layers of this mystery, revealing startling clues hidden in plain sight. Consider the case of Artaxerxes III, a ruler whose reign ended in assassination, yet whose tomb has never been located. Ancient historians like Plutarch mention a lavish burial, but no monument matching his status has been found. Satellite imagery over Iran's Fars province, however, shows unusual rectangular formations near Naksh-e-Rostam, the very valley where Darius and other kings rest. These geometric anomalies, visible only from above, align perfectly with Achaemenid architectural patterns. Could one of these be Artaxerxes' long-lost chamber? Ground-penetrating radar surveys in 2018 detected hollow spaces beneath the largest formation, sparking theories of a concealed stairway leading to an underground tomb. Equally puzzling is the fate of Queen Atossa, daughter of Cyrus and wife of Darius. As one of the most influential women of the empire, her burial should have been monumental. Yet her name is conspicuously absent from known tomb inscriptions. Recently, archaeologists analyzing declassified Cold War-era spy photos noticed a curious detail: a terraced platform hidden in the Zagros Mountains, eerily similar to Cyrus' tomb at Pasargadae. Local shepherds speak of a golden door glimpsed in the cliffs after earthquakes, though no official excavation has been permitted in this politically sensitive region. Then there's the enigma of Arsames, grandfather of Darius, whose existence is confirmed by inscriptions but whose burial site remains unknown. Infrared scans along the ancient road from Persepolis to Susa revealed 3 massive stone blocks submerged in river silt near modern-day Behistun. Their carvings match the distinctive bull capital style of early Achaemenid tombs, suggesting they may be the collapsed entrance to a royal sepulchre. The surrounding area, now farmland, was once sacred Persian ground, raising the possibility that entire tombs lie buried beneath wheat fields. What makes these potential discoveries so electrifying is their untouched state. Unlike the looted pyramids of Egypt, Persian tombs were often sealed discreetly within cliffs or buried beneath unmarked mounds. The Behistun inscription hints at this practice, mentioning kings who rest in the heart of the mountain. In 2021, a team using LiDAR technology mapped the foothills of Mount Damavand and identified 5 man-made cavities at precise elevations, each matching the solar alignment rituals described in Zoroastrian burial texts. One cavity emits strange metallic readings, possibly indicating hidden gold or ceremonial weapons. The search isn't just about treasure, it's about reclaiming lost history. Every undiscovered tomb represents a missing chapter in Persia's story, from royal lineages to forgotten customs. take the mystery of Bardia, the alleged imposter king, whose brief reign ended in violence. If his genuine tomb were found, its artifacts could settle centuries of debate about whether he was a usurper or Darius' slandered brother. Similarly, locating the tomb of Parysatis, the cunning queen mother, might reveal clues about her alleged poisonings and palace intrigues. As our journey through Persia's unsolved mysteries draws to a close, we're left with a profound truth. The sands and mountains still guard secrets that could reshape our understanding of this mighty empire. Perhaps the greatest treasure isn't gold or jewels, but the chance to hear these long-silenced voices speak again through the stones they left behind. As we stand at the edge of this labyrinth of Persian enigmas, let's take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we've shared. From the vanished army of Cambyses swallowed by desert sands to the cryptic messages etched into the Behistun cliffside, each of these 25 mysteries peels back another layer of Persia's grandeur. Think about it, these aren't just historical footnotes, but seismic gaps in our knowledge that challenge everything we thought we knew about one of history's most influential empires. The lost fire temples could rewrite our understanding of Zoroastrian rituals. The missing naval fleet might hold clues to Persia's secret trade networks. And every undiscovered royal tomb, like those we just explored, whispers tantalizing hints about power struggles and forgotten lineages. What's truly remarkable is how these puzzles interconnect. The Cyrus Cylinder's disputed legacy ties directly to the Magi priest's shadowy influence. The burning of Persepolis resonates with Darius III's mysterious betrayal. Even the Hanging Garden's possible Persian origins link back to the extravagant engineering hinted at in Pasargada's ruins. This isn't just a collection of isolated curiosities, it's a sprawling web of secrets that, if solved, could completely redefine ancient history. Now here's where you come in. Maybe you've visited Iran and spotted an unexcavated mound that matches these descriptions. Perhaps you've studied cuneiform and have fresh theories about the Deva inscriptions. Or you might simply wonder, like I do, whether Queen Atos's Golden Door legend holds any truth. The comment section below is your arena. Share your wildest theories, personal experiences, or even recommended books that explore these mysteries further. History isn't set in stone, it's a living conversation, and your voice belongs in it. Before you go, don't let the adventure end here. If tracing the footsteps of ancient empires lights up your curiosity like it does mine, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. You won't want to miss our deep dives into lost civilizations from the Indus Valley to Mesopotamia. Every click helps us uncover more forgotten stories and bring them to life for you. So until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the greatest discoveries often begin with a single, impossible mystery.